What's going on, guys? In today's video we are going to be challenging ourselves to build 3 separate Clone Wars era MOCs in just 7 days. Now, over the past few years, LEGO has released a ton of sets with Phase 2 clones in them. And naturally, as an avid Star Wars LEGO fan, collector, and MOC builder, I've managed to get my hands on quite a few of these clones, and I've assembled a nice, large clone army.
Nice.
Now lately I've grown tired of just having the clones on a base plate. I want to get them in some MOCs, so I came up with this challenge, and the rules are going to be very simple. Rule number 1 is that each build has to showcase and display a different clone legion or battalion from my collection. Now rule number 2 is that each build is going to have to fit on its own 32 by 32 base plate. And then lastly, as indicated by the title of this video, we have to have all 3 done within 7 days. So without wasting any more precious time, let's get into building. This first build is going to showcase off none other than the 501st Elite Corps, led by General Anakin Skywalker. These guys are probably most famously known for their march on the Jedi Temple during Order 66, but they're also a main focal point of a lot of the story arcs during the Clone Wars animated TV series. Now, I like to begin each MOC project with a micro build. I just think it's a really good way to formulate and plan out your ideas in LEGO, which is really cool. So for this one, we're going to have a droid force coming across a bridge, being met by Anakin and the 501st in a really densely forested area. So I started with a base plate, of course got the bottom layer down, just all the outline of where we're going to be putting the filler brick and everything, and then I got started on that water. Once I had the pillars in for the bridge, I just tried to build up both sides and getting all the foundations in, just making them look as natural as possible. Then as you can see, I also put a battery pack in there within the filler brick because I recently picked up a Light My Bricks lightsaber starter kit. So I got one of each color pretty much, and these are really going to be a nice addition to all my MOCs. But of course they need power, so you got to factor that in. And then after I finished all the filler brick, I had to fiddle around with the electrical a bit, but we got that sorted. And then I topped off where the bridge was going to be, and that was a wrap on day 1. It was getting pretty late at this point, so I ended up going to bed. On day 2 of this challenge, I actually had the day off work, and I wanted to get as much done as I could. So once I woke up, I grabbed a coffee and got right back to building. I started with the bridge deck, which I just went with a tile and plate combination, just so I could have some leeway once I'm placing minifigures. And then I got to reworking the bridge just to make it look a bit better. It didn't quite look right, and that's a look at that with Anakin and his lightsaber. After that, I was able to tile off the water and start on all the nice foliage pieces. As I made my way up the slope, I really tried my best to cover as many studs as possible, hopefully giving it a nice full and lush look. And then as you can see, I got the left side done, so I just wanted to go ahead and replicate that on the right side. And those trees really look nice. I built a bunch of them for this specific MOC, and I'm glad they actually turned out very well. So here's a look at the finished 501st MOC. We've got Anakin followed by Captain Rex, 5s, and a few other 501st clone troopers, and they're jumping into battle against some droids on this bridge. Now there's a few other things to talk about, but we'll get to that at the end of the video in the showcase. But right now we gotta get building second MOC, which will be the Coruscant Guard. Now these guys make some scattered appearances during Revenge of the Sith, for instance when they save Lord Vader on Mustafar, but they also make a bunch of appearances in the Clone Wars animated TV series, and they essentially act as a policing force in Coruscant during the Age of the Republic. To start this build, I actually got my sister to build the Pirate Snub Fighter, and you guys will see why in a bit, but while she was doing that, I collected all of our alien and human Star Wars minifigures that aren't really necessarily named characters, and they're going to be going on the MOC, as we are going to be doing a Coruscant Underworld MOC, which is going to be pretty chaotic, but this is my basic idea of it, and then we get right into building. Now because this is a Coruscant MOC, I want to give the illusion that it's really high up, because you're never necessarily on ground level when you're on Coruscant. So we used some black tile to do that, and then built up this base, adding some side paneling and greeble just to give it a very chaotic look to it, but still make it look realistic to Coruscant. Unfortunately, on day 3 of the challenge, I was pretty busy, so here we are on day 4. I had my sister helping me once again, which was really nice, and we got started on the cityscape here. On the left side I got a cantina of sorts, and on the right is some foundations to some soon to be much taller buildings. Unfortunately, after the fact I realized I should have left the back open on this cantina so you could see, but at least you could see through the front door. And then I just kept working. She was working on the right side there, and then I was working on the lighting, which if you worked with Lego lights before, they're nice to look at, but they're just really annoying to get placed perfectly. So I spent a bunch of time doing that, and then I just kept going on building up these buildings, and it really turned out nice. Here's a look at that. So here's a look at the MOC with all the minifigures on. First of all, it's so much taller than I thought it'd be. It's honestly like 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet high, and we've got just so much packed in going on in this. And basically what's happening is the Coruscant guard is trying to detain, and they're in a fight with some of these pirates, with the pirate snub fighters. So we've got that going on, and then a bunch of stories down that alleyway. Basically this guy got caught and ratted them out.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
So while that guy rethinks his life in prison, all these other characters are going to carry on very well because there is just so much detail packed into this small MOC. It's only 32 by 32 studs, and it's amazing what you can fit into that. But on that note, that's 2 out of the 3 MOCs done. I'm super happy with them at this point, obviously. But now it's time to get to the 3rd MOC. So it's the next day, day 5 of the challenge, and this 3rd MOC is going to showcase the 212th Attack Battalion. Now, whenever I think of these guys, I immediately think of the iconic scene on Utapau during Revenge of the Sith. Just that whole sequence is so amazing and so nostalgic. If you're a Star Wars enthusiast, you love it. And then, of course, they make a bunch of appearances on any Clone Wars media. But for the build itself, I want to actually take us to Ryloth, where we're going to be building a classic clone base. Now, I don't have a ton of tan parts, but I think we'll have enough to make this work because I've really been wanting to build this planet for a while. On top of the 212th, I also want to include a few clone officers, potentially Admiral Yularen and Yoda, and of course General Kenobi. Fortunately, I don't have a General Kenobi, so we're going to have to go the custom route. Basically, all I'm going to be doing is taking the torso and legs from Qui-Gon Jinn and General Hux's hair, and there we have it, General Kenobi.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
I began this build by getting an outline of the soon-to-be base and then got to work on the exterior terrain work. I was really trying to capture the essence of Ryloth with this exterior, using some of those dark tan and olive green pieces, and I got even some dark green trees in there, and I just was really happy with how it turned out. Then I just put some minifigures on there, give you guys a look at how it might end up looking, but that was a wrap on day 5. And unfortunately, once again, I was busy on day 6, so here we are on day 7, the final day of this challenge, and I was really ready to get this project done with. So I actually had my sister help me out. We got the base built up a little bit. We also stole some tiles from the Coruscant Guard gunship. Don't worry, we'll be putting them back, but we got those on there because we want them to be on the front wall of this MOC. And while she was working on the walls, I was working on a roof with built-in lights, and it just really looks good once we get everything plated off and tiled and everything. You guys will see in a second, this just turned out amazing. And with that, the 3rd and final MOC of this challenge is complete. We have a clone base on the planet Ryloth, manned by the 212th Attack Battalion. The top of the base has a swiveling anti-aircraft cannon manned by a clone gunner. Then once we're down in the base, of course, we've got a bunch of 212th troops, some officers, Commander Cody, General Kenobi, and Admiral Yularen. Now the story here is that this young Twi'lek ran into the base to warn them that the droids were coming, and then they're rushing out to defend. Now it's time to compare all 3 MOCs in this video in a showcase and decide which one is the best. It was a very long week, many hours spent building, but we have 3 MOCs finished and they look amazing. Now we're going to go through and look at them all once again and just decide for ourselves which one is the best. Now the first build with the 501st and Anakin was really nice. I was able to use that light up lightsaber, and I made a lit up explosion, which I haven't done before, which both of those were cool, but the scale of the whole thing in general just wasn't great, and I thought that could have been a little bit better, but you know, there was only those 32 studs to work with. Now the Coruscant Guard one was a little bit different. It was my first time building a cityscape like that, and as we were building it, it just wasn't looking great, and I was kind of disappointed in how it was turning out. But once we got everything finished and the minifigures on, it just looked amazing, and really one of the best things I've built out of Lego. So I'm really happy with that one, and I think it might be my favorite out of these builds. And last but not least was the clone base on Ryloth. Now this one was good in a few ways. First of all, I got to work on building some terrain for a specific planet in Star Wars, which I haven't necessarily done before. That was nice. And of course, building a clone base. I really need some practice trying to narrow down that aesthetic, especially because our next mock project is going to be a clone base. So that was nice, but I do wish I had added a second floor maybe, just to give it a little bit more substance. Now sitting back and looking at all three of the builds, if I had to keep one built, it would definitely be the Coruscant Underworld one. I love being able to use all my weird Star Wars alien minifigures in one mock, and it kind of makes me want to build the Coruscant Underworld in a larger scale one day. So overall this challenge was really fun. I was able to push my parts collection to the limits, test out some new techniques, and build some other planets I otherwise wouldn't on a large scale. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Depending if you guys like this type of content, I might do a part 2 of this. So stay tuned. See you in the next one.